Hello and welcome to my podcast on radical self-love, an Ayurvedic perspective on healing body and mind. My name is Sandra Hayes and I'm a Vedic practitioner, meaning I utilize Ayurveda, yoga and Vedic astrology as well as transformational creativity to help you become a conscious creator of your own life, health and well-being. For more information and for access to my online learning platform, The Little School of Happiness, please go to www.sandrahayes.eu. Hello again. So today what I would like to talk to you about today is an interesting subject, is about what the Yoga Sutras have to say about fear, because there are, several hints in the sutras that tell us that fear really is one of the major hindrances, setbacks that we face in our lives when it comes to trying to live more authentically, with more integrity, and ultimately with more happiness and a good state of mental health. We can't obviously expect to be in a really optimal state of mental health, or to be in the flow, as the sutras would call this state samadhi, which is kind of like a real state of being in the moment, being in the flow. Patanjali describes several stages of this, from a very light kind of stage of being in the flow that we all already have experienced, at least when we were children and played or did something creative and were completely in the moment, in the flow. And this state can't obviously be reached when there is an inner resistance to be in the moment. And why would we face an inner resistance to being fully present in the moment? Is because of some form of fear. And Patanjali tells us also that really everyone has fear. So Patanjali lists us the most important categories of hindrances to this state of flow, which he calls the kleshas, and there are 5 of them. So pancha klesha, and the sutra is in the second chapter. And it goes avidya, smita, raga, dvesha, pinivesha, klesha. So here what he says really is that there are 5 main things that are standing in the way of all of our happiness and mental health. And that is ignorance, or misunderstanding the truth about the present moment. And that's an obvious one, really, that really does stand in the way, because most of the time when we are upset about something or have a fear about something, it's because we attach a meaning to that that is not necessarily the truth. I'll get into that a little bit more maybe later, but I'm just going to list them out for you. But what I do want to really talk about today is fear. So these 5 are ignorance, kind of an ego-centeredness, so that we think we are the center, or everyone else has to think like we do, which is what we unconsciously often expect. We expect other people to think in the same way as we do. And then the third one is attachment, when we are trying to hold on to something and not let it go, even though the world is full of change and fluctuations. And we know this, we know that, everything changes, and yet we are holding on internally and not wanting to let go. And then there is aversion, which is the opposite, really. So when there is a situation that we have a resistance against, and we avoid that situation, even though it might be important for us to go there, but we still avoid it. and then finally fear. And this is the one that I want to talk about most today, because even as Patanjali says, fear is what we all have. Everyone, every human being really has some form of fear. And fear of death really is the kind of, underlying, deep-seated, unconscious fear. Every fear basically is some kind of a fear of death. But of course, we're not really constantly aware of that. We're not, thinking, oh God, I'm afraid I'm going to die right now. When we're actually just, having a little bit of a resistance to, speaking our truth, saying something like, oh, I don't actually want to visit my mother this Sunday afternoon. I'd like to do something else instead, or something similar. And if we actually are really conscious, then, if we try to do this as a practice, to just, watch our behavior and our resistances, what do we have a resistance toward? What do we have, what do we want to hold on to? Where is our fear? Then we can really learn a lot about ourselves. But what is interesting is that if we remember the Purusharthas, the 4 pillars of happiness. So it's like the basic needs of every human being. Every human being needs this in order to be in any way, in a happy state of good mental health, in a state of flow in life. So these are the four pillars. One is Artha, which is the need for physical safety. And that means both physical health as well as also in our days financial security, because without financial security we can't be physically safe. We won't have enough food, we might not have shelter. So this is physical safety. And then we have Kama, which is the need for connection to other people. And then we have Dharma, which is the need to be in our individual personality, follow our own individual nature in life, to be really rooted in our individual self, our true self. And then there is Moksha, which is freedom from anything really, which is, it's a need to be free to make our own decisions in life. And those 4 pillars are really important for every single human being. They're just human needs, basic human needs. And it's really, if you want to understand human life and human nature, then we have to really understand those needs as well, because do we take away one, then we're in trouble, really. We can't be completely happy. And these are unconsciously also the goal of every human being, really. We all try to fulfill those needs. And I've talked about this before, that sometimes they oppose each other a little bit. But what is really interesting is that if we look at things like what kind of fears are in our, modern psychology, how do we describe fear? Now there is, I'm not sure if he's very well known outside of Germany, but it's any German listeners might know Fritz Riemann, who is a psychologist who described the 4 different types of fear, basic types of fear in human beings. And why I find this very interesting is because those fears, they match the Purusharthas, the kind of not, having one of these 4 basic needs met. So he describes, for one, there is the fear of surrendering to the other person. So these are the people who have it, who are kind of, very resistant to commit to a relationship, because there is an innate fear to surrender to someone else. They are the schizoid personalities, as he calls them. So that's, the fear of karma, of the connection to other people. And of course, these fears, they come ultimately from a misunderstanding, from, this whole development of misunderstanding. So this person may have experienced something in their life that if I surrender to another person, then I will be hurt. So, maybe as a child, to really surrender to the mother, and then the mother will not love me or give me up for adoption, or whatever it is. But this is the one form of fear that comes when this basic need of connection to other people has at some stage maybe not been met. It's developing a fear of surrendering. And then another is the fear of becoming an individual, becoming, empowered in the self, because those people are afraid of being an individual, because then they're afraid they would lose connection to other people. They are afraid of being alone. They are the depressive personalities. And then there are the people who are afraid of the safety of artha, in the sense that they're afraid of things being the same, things being reliable, the same, things being steady, and that makes them, they feel then maybe, I imagine, like a claustrophobic sense of being stuck, because it's always the same. So they run away from that, and toward it's kind of like the opposite of freedom. As you see, it's always two opposing each other. And then there are the people who are afraid of change, afraid of losing that safety, afraid of breaking out from the known, afraid of anything that changes. So those are the four types of fear as described by Fritz Riemann, which are really the fears of the Purusharthas, of having our basic needs met. So why would we have a fear of having our basic needs met? Of course, we want to have our basic needs met. But if we go back to that same sutra now, the first, the field in which fear even can breed, in which all of the hindrances can breed, all of the kleshas, is ignorance. And ignorance means that we are not really aware of what is happening. We're not really understanding the world in its kind of universal truth. We are seeing the world from our own filter. And that means that we don't actually, we understand something wrong. We have at some stage in our development, we have misunderstood something. We have grown up, maybe childhood experiences, or whatever it means. We have experienced something, but we have not understood, because at that time maybe we weren't mature enough also to understand. We were completely dependent. We had not gone through all the development of all of the stages in our life. So we have been completely dependent on our caregivers. And so when we experience something that hurts us, or something that causes us fear of losing those caregivers, then we split something, some part of our individual nature off, and then that becomes our karma. It literally becomes our karma then to find that part and become whole again. That is the kind of milestones, or that we follow along on our journey through life. And then it becomes our task to see clearly, to really understand the truth in all of that. And ultimately, the truth is that we are not split off, and we're also, we are all, this is the kind of, spiritual catchphrase of everything is one, but it is. So everything really is a web. Nothing can exist independently. Nobody in this world could exist independently and individually. We don't exist on our own. We only exist because we carry in us the story and the consciousness of all of our ancestors, and we are completely entangled in the experience that our mother had, our father had, and the web of consciousness that they carry in their DNA. And so, there is no way to split anything off. And when we don't understand that, then we can easily fall into this, misunderstanding and ignorance, that we are separate from each other. And then we fall into the trap of blaming other people and thinking that, that it is somehow their fault, or maybe also blaming ourselves and thinking it is my fault that something happens. But every time we blame anyone, other people or myself, then we can only do that on the basis that we're not woven together, but that we're not connected, that we're separate, that it's me against them. And that is the egoism that Patanjali talks about, that we think, we exist separately and individually. And then we fall into the trap of wanting to hold on to our views, to our habits, to that, which we think is right. And we hold on to that so much that we don't accept that there are other truths out there. And that, of course, causes us a lot of grief, and it's the only cause for any war that is currently going on or has ever gone on, is the attachment to things, the greed to think we need things, we need more and more, and the inability to accept that, there are different truths out there, and that ultimately the ultimate truth connects us all. And that then, this attachment to, this egoism leads to this attachment, but then also again to aversion, because where there is attachment, there is also aversion. If I am attaching myself to one thought or wish or paradigm, then there is also something that stands for the opposite, that symbolizes the opposite, and that I want to run away from, and that I want to avoid. And it leads to a state where we want to stay in our comfort zone, whatever our comfort zone is. Our comfort zone doesn't necessarily have to be very comfortable, but it's the one we know. And so, we stay there. We have a fear. We develop a fear then of any kind of change. So, and that, according to Patanjali, causes all of the dilemma that we are in. So we have to break this dilemma first by breaking the ignorance. And the ignorance can really only be broken by practicing being conscious and authentic. And here we go again, we could come back, to this whole theme of being authentic and living in our truth and living in our integrity. And it really is, though, the ultimate tool that will lead us out of any suffering. And I think that, in my experience, the moment we actually consciously make it our mission to become more and more honest and truthful and authentic, our lives will actually change. And a part of this is to connect to our own body, connect to our own, the messages that our body gives us. This is a really important part, because our bodies don't lie. Our bodies never lie, which is why they're so crucial in navigating us through our life. Because we will know if we're not in our truth, then our bodies will tell us with all sorts of symptoms. And so this is a really important task, to begin really listening to the body and listening to its messages, even if they are small messages, because we will feel our truth in the body. And you can try this out right now. If you just think of something, remember a moment, a situation in your life where you felt really embarrassed or ashamed of something, when you feel that, sensation of shame. And you can feel this in your body. Just sit and think back to that really awful moment of shame and embarrassment, and see, how does your body feel like? How does it feel like in the body? Where do you feel it in the body? Just, acknowledge that sensation. And you will know, your body will always tell you. And then if you think of different situations, situations where you were really frightened, but then also a situation where you felt really happy and safe, and just, go into these moments as much as you can, as well as you can in your memory, in your imagination, and see what happens in your body. You can, try this sitting or lying, but just to have, a moment of truth, connection with your body. And this is, one reason why the physical aspect, the asana aspect, for example, is really important. It's one of the 8 limbs of Ashtanga yoga is asana, and it's one of the 8 limbs. So that means it's not the only thing that's important. It's not, it's not even the first one on the list, but it is crucial, and especially in our days, because we don't have it easy to connect to subtle inner sensations and feelings and thoughts and emotions, but it's much easier for us to connect to something tangible like our bodies. So it's really important to, have a physical connection, a physical practice, whether that's, yoga, asana practice, or whether that's a different practice like dance. It's, just as valuable in that sense. So I will the next time talk a little bit more about the importance of asana in the body. But until then, I wish you a wonderful day and week, and I will be here again soon. Bye for now. You were listening to a podcast on radical self-love, an Ayurvedic perspective of body and mind, by Sandra Hayes and the Little School of Happiness. For more information and offers, go to www.sandrahayes.eu.